Hi lovely people, it's Miriam and welcome back to another video. So in this video I have a piece that's quite special to me. I finished it last week and I'm really quite happy with it, so I'll talk about it more in a minute. First, I just quickly wanted to remind you all that I have a sale going on in my shop for 20% off all my prints, booklets and stickers, and all my prices on originals have also been lowered. You can go in the link in the description below to see the code that you need to use and to get a link to my shop also. The sale ends a day from the time this video goes up, so there's only one day left on the sale if you want to take advantage of that. Also, my patrons get 25% off, so if you're interested in that code, make sure to check out my Patreon page. And while I'm talking about Patreon, this piece that you see me painting in this video is not only available as a print on my shop, but is also the subject of this month's process PDF on my Patreon. Every month for the $5 tier I do a really detailed PDF with all my materials, all my references, all my preliminary sketches and step-by-step images with explanations of how I did everything I did in a piece, and I do that every month for one big painting for the $5 tier. So this piece is the month of May's PDF, so if you're interested in that you can definitely check out the link in the description below because that is already up there. So anyway, let's jump into talking about this piece that I'm painting. The title is Adoration, and it's a concept I've been kind of working with for a little while now. You might have seen some of the preliminary sketches on Instagram if you follow me there. The concept was quite different initially. The main idea of the thing was that the character was going to be impaled by a horn. But the actual structure of the whole thing and compositions changed quite a lot, and I finally settled on this kind of more tender relationship between the character and the creature than my initial sketch. I wanted to paint it following the same logic I had used for my painting Lost, which I uploaded I think a couple of weeks ago, the character in the red reeds with no eyes. I wanted to try using that technique again, where I use watercolour and gouache next to each other to create a texture contrast. So you'll see that the character's body is painted entirely in watercolour, and then the creature's body is painted with what I'm doing right now, an underlayer of watercolour, an underpainting almost, and then all the texture is done in gouache. So I'm sorry I forgot to turn off my autofocus for this little bit of the video. I swear I tried to remember it for the rest of the video. It's not going to keep going in and out focus like that the whole time. Those pieces, I think this piece took me about 7 hours, maybe 6 or 7 hours to paint, so it was a lot of little clips, so sometimes I forget to turn off autofocus, sorry. I hope it won't happen too much, but also forgive my hair, it's an absolute mess. I never think, when I film those things I always just focus on the painting. I never really think of how I must look like to everyone else, because as an artist I kind of work from home most of the time and don't really go out much, so I just end up looking like a scraggly hermit by the end. It's not really something I think about. I never quite realise that I'm sometimes in shot, so I hope you guys don't mind. I really need to cut my hair and dye it again, oh dear. But anyway, so one thing that I kind of worked through with this painting was my fear of gouache, and I know that may sound a bit weird given that I do a lot of my painting on this channel in gouache, but gouache is still a fairly new medium to me in comparison to watercolour. I've used watercolour for so many more years than I have gouache, and gouache is only about a couple of years I think that I've been kind of actively trying it out, and so there are still elements that I'm scared of, and I find that gouache reactivates more easily than watercolour when it's layered upon itself, and so I was really scared to ruin this concept by going straight in with gouache, because the initial idea was that I would do the entirety of the creature in gouache. I wanted to have like a wash like I did at the beginning in watercolour, just give it a base value, and then I would go in straight in gouache with the texture. But I was really scared. This medium still scares me quite a lot, and I think new mediums, and I know you might argue that gouache isn't very new to me, but I still consider it quite new because there are still some things that I'm not quite comfortable with when it comes to working with it, so I still consider it vaguely new to me. But any new medium is always scary. And I get that question a lot. I get a lot of people who go, oh, I really would like to try this, but it scares me because I don't know anything about it. And I completely relate to that. I feel that myself too, and in this case particularly acutely. I really liked this concept. I was really happy with my sketch. I was really looking forward to painting it, but when it came to actually laying down the gouache on the creature, I froze, and bits that you don't see in these videos are me just pausing and just staring at my canvas, just going, I'm really scared of ruining it. I don't want to go in with gouache immediately. So what I did was this base layer of texture in watercolour that you can still see on the painting right now. I've just started covering it in gouache. And the fact that the watercolour doesn't reactivate as much meant that I could put down this kind of underpainting. It would seep into the paper, not reactivate when I put gouache over it, because gouache doesn't really have enough water to reactivate the watercolour underneath. And also gouache kind of grabs onto watercolour quite well, so it meant that it was a really pleasurable surface to paint on, and I had a kind of watercolour sketch that I could follow the lines of. And if I really didn't like the sketch, I could then cover it up with gouache, but at least I had a guideline that I was happy with. And it was quite liberating to know that I could work that way, because it felt like I had taken the best out of the two mediums that I work with the most, and combined them into a technique that I really enjoy painting with. So this piece was a bit kind of a milestone in the way I work, in the sense that I found a rhythm, and I found a sort of technique doing it that makes me quite excited to try on the next piece. Again, I apologize for the weird lighting here. I think my white balance is picking up on my hair and making this horn shine. I hope you don't mind. These are not things I can actually tell are happening when I'm painting, because as you can see, my back is to the camera, so unfortunately there are some elements that I'm not super aware of until I edit. I'm really sorry about that. I hope you guys don't mind. This horn was actually a lot of fun to paint, because it was the loosest part of it all. I didn't have to think too much about it, and I just let my wrist kind of go a bit crazy, and because the texture needed to be a bit random and gnarly and kind of worn out, and I wanted the tip to kind of look whiter than the base, like it had been kind of worn out and used, and it was a really fun part. It was the quickest bit of the whole painting to paint, but also quite a satisfying one. And then this part, the eye, was by far the bit I spent the most time on, but also the most satisfying one. I loved it. I loved painting that eye. I initially wanted to paint it flat and white, and kind of as if it was a source of light, but I decided against it and decided to go for a blind eye. And I don't know, I tried something that I had never really done before, and I used the whole quality of gouache where it reactivates the layers underneath, and I used that to kind of make the eye look a bit pearlescent, and I'm really quite happy with that eye. I thought it was really fun. I mean, I love painting eyes anyway. I think a lot of people do. It's one of those staples of art online, isn't it? People drawing eyes because they're fascinating. So this piece was actually kind of a milestone in my use of gouache, because I wouldn't say I fell out of love with gouache, but I did a piece last month that you can see as my process PDF for the month of April, that I'd struggled really quite severely with gouache. I'd struggled so much that by the end I had become very frustrated and very down about my own skill level and about how much I felt I knew gouache. That piece kind of it felt like it set me back, and like I actually didn't know anything about painting with that medium, and I just felt down and like I'd failed. And I mean, that happens to all of us. It's just a pretty common thing to happen, isn't it? But I needed a piece to kind of rekindle my passion for the medium, and also kind of give me back a bit of confidence, because I mean, setbacks like that happen. They are just a thing. They are just going to happen. We can't avoid them. But the key is to not let them completely put you off, because they are just one piece. It's like anything. You're bound to fail at something you do a lot. And you're bound to succeed, really. It kind of works both ways. The more you do something, the more likely you are to fail at it, and the more likely you are to succeed at it. That's the only way it works. And so I couldn't let myself just feel down about that piece and feel like I wasn't good enough to do a big painting that I would be happy with. And so this piece, I think part of my stress when I started painting this, the one that you see in this video, was I was really scared that it was going to happen like that previous big piece I did. I was really scared that I was really happy with the concept, and I had an idea of how I wanted it to look, and I was really worried that I was going to start painting it, and because I didn't know enough about gouache, and because I didn't use it in the right way or in the best way. I don't think there's a right way necessarily of using a medium, but I do believe there is a best way. There is a way in which you use a medium where you have taken into account its key qualities and applied them in a way that makes it come out the best it could come out. It's like anything, you can try to understand something as deeply as possible and understand exactly what the most efficient way of using it is, and then in that case you kind of have created all these tools that you need to succeed with it. And that's something, I think that's something I learned from that piece I didn't like last month. It was the fact that I was trying to make the medium bend to my will and my way of doing things, and that way of doing things was the way of doing things from someone who was used to watercolour. And gouache isn't watercolour. It has similar qualities in some aspects, but overall it's not watercolour, obviously. And so my technique in my previous piece was going against the grain of how gouache works best. I think that was part of what was wrong. And so I needed a bit more humility, basically. I think I needed to kind of check myself and go, what, put your ego aside. Don't believe that the way you want it to work will make it work. You can't just push it, keep pushing it, and then make it bend to what you want it to do. It's just not how it works. Working with a medium, especially a new medium, is very much a collaboration. It's something where you have to understand how you and that medium work, what kind of result you want to achieve, what kind of result is realistically achievable with that medium, and then kind of work with that. And I needed to check myself, and I think that piece was a bit of a wake-up call for me. And that was really, really useful. And then this piece was me trying to put into action the conclusions that come into that previous failed painting. I don't know if I'm making sense. I know I say that a lot in my videos, but that's because, when you're talking about thought processes that you've gone through personally, you never quite know if you're expressing them in a way that makes sense to other people, because it makes sense to you, so you might be missing out on basic elements that other people might need to learn about before they understand you better. So I don't know if what I'm saying actually makes much sense, but if it does, I'd love to hear your personal experiences with a frustrating medium and how you got to learn how best to work with it and what you had to put aside in your own assumptions to work with it best. I think it's always really interesting. And I recently bought some water-soluble oils, and although I think gouache and watercolour are probably the mediums I'm going to stick with for my art in general, because it's just the ones I love working with the most, I would really like to try those oils, and so it'll be starting all over again, trying to put my assumptions aside and learn a completely new medium with some basic humility if I can. But anyway, this is getting to the end of the video. I slowed down the last clip because when I was editing it, it just ended so abruptly. It was almost it was unsettling. So this is a kind of real-time clip of me painting, so you can see why it took me 7 hours. And I hope you guys enjoyed this painting. I know it can look a little bit unsettling, but I'm really happy with it. I would love to hear how you guys interpret this piece, what you guys see in it, how you guys feel about it. and if you guys like it. It is available as a print for the sale that it's going on, if any of you are interested in purchasing it. And other than that, yeah, I think this is the end of the videos. Thank you so much for listening to my rambling once again. Thank you so much for all your support. I hope you are all really well. Take really good care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon. Bye everyone.